Excellent. I think we're now ready. Two people grabbing their coffees, which is more important than anything else. Welcome everybody to the Harcourt Leisure Centre and the impromptu Harcourt Bushfire Relief Centre. As we're meeting on Jarrah land, allow me to acknowledge the traditional owners, the Jarrah Wurrung, and pay respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations people present. A little bit of housekeeping. There are drinks available at the back, cold water and soft drinks in the eskies. Please avail yourself of those throughout the day. Stay hydrated, it's going to be a warm one. Toilets are through the back door on the left there. And lunch has been provided for us by Near East Kitchen, Oz, over there in Ballarat. So that will be later on at around about 12:45. So this first session is going to provide a series of brief updates from key agencies to give you a clear overview of the recovery support that is available. The speakers will include Mark from Insurance Council of Australia, Angela from Emergency Recovery Victoria, Tymor from the Department of Family Fairness and Housing, Kate from Art Justice, and Lorraine from the Mount Alexander Shire Council. Now, some of these people will be accepting questions. I will come around with a little portable microphone, allowing you to ask your questions so everyone can hear them. Do be patient because our little PA system does stress out a little bit of times when I'm using this. The microphone doesn't work, so please be patient. Let the speaker's microphone come back on and then they'll answer their questions. Can I welcome Angela from Emergency Recovery to the podium?
Thank you, Michael. Like Mark, I would just like to acknowledge the journey that you are all on and the difficult times that you are facing, but love coming over here and seeing you all working together, supported by a lot of really good people. And I do want to acknowledge Council, the Progress Association, and a whole host of other people who are providing the support to you as you work your way through the aftermath of these devastating events. I'm with Emergency Management Victoria. I'm the Regional Director for the western half of the state, which includes this beautiful region. And I'm here today just to talk to you a little bit about the two of the programs that the state government is offering in support of not just the Harcourt community, but those other communities who've been devastated by these events as well. Probably the first one is the clean-up program. And you may be aware of the clean-up program through our attendance here over the past few weeks. The state supports a clean-up program for those households that have lost their homes, their primary place of residence, and uninsured or underinsured. And Mark's talked about your options if you have insurance. Our clean-up program looks after the uninsured and the underinsured. This time around, so we've done this clean-up program supported by the state before. This is the first time though that we've extended that program to businesses. So if you have lost your business premises, you may be eligible for state-supported clean-up if you are uninsured or underinsured. Uninsured is pretty obvious what that means generally. Underinsured is a little bit more tricky. And it basically means that you have a level of insurance, but it is not enough to help you rebuild and re-establish your business. Now that will vary from business to business and circumstance to circumstance. There's a layer of eligibility that sits under that as well. So the best thing we can, if you feel you might be eligible for that level of support, the best thing you can do is contact our recovery hotline on 1800 560 760, and I suspect that number is around somewhere. Certainly the Progress Association will have it, but it's 1800 560 760, and you will be connected to someone from our clean-up team who will be able to talk to you about your eligibility. So if you're unsure, if you're not sure whether you might qualify or not, the best thing you can do is call that number and have a chat to one of our friendly team members who will help you work through your status and what support might be available for you. That's the clean-up program in short. That number is also important for another reason, in that it will connect you to the emergency support, recovery support worker program. And we've had Anglicare over here who have done a great job and continue to do a great job with us and with the state government in supporting people who have experienced disasters. If you call that number, if you just need someone to talk to, you're not sure what your circumstance is or what your next steps are, you will be connected through the recovery support program. And someone will talk to you, most likely someone from Anglicare, but it could be from somewhere else as well. And they will talk to you about where you're at in your recovery journey and what the sorts of supports might be there to help you. So that can be about anything. You know, it's, as you well know, there's a lot going on in your lives at the moment, and sometimes the next step, the first step or the second step, whatever it is, can feel a little overwhelming. And that team, the recovery support team, is there to help you work through that. And I think the wonderful thing about that is if you need more than just the phone call and the helping hand to take that next step, if you have some particularly challenging or complex needs, you will be supported by someone who will walk with you right through the journey. So they will be there for those who have particularly complex situations to help you right along the way. Really important support there that is available for you through that government's funded recovery support program. I'm happy to take questions, Michael, if there are any questions of a general nature. I probably can't answer, circumstances specific to you only, but happy to do that, or I will be hanging around, as is my colleague Beck, who's you may have met Beck when you came in the door. Beck will be around too. Please do feel free to come and have a chat to us, and we will point you in the right direction if you like. And we do have a question.
The question is, are trees...
All right, get loud.
Are trees on business premises covered under this sort of clean-up? Because my insurance seems to not be keen on covering trees on business premises.
So the question was around trees on business premises. I'm going to give a very bureaucratic answer and say it depends, which I know is not helpful for you, but again, it depends. We would have to have someone come out and have a look at. He didn't like that answer, that dog. Someone would have to have a look and understand, those trees in relation to your business and the clean-up. Yeah, it depends on the nature of the business, but it could be, and that's why important to contact that number and talk through the specifics of your circumstance with them. I'll echo Mark's comments around safety and how important it is to any works that are happening on your property, whether you're doing them yourselves or you have someone else doing them, is to make sure that the person doing them understands the nature of the hazards that they're dealing with, and that they're appropriately qualified to support you in that clean-up as well. But yes, call that 1800 560 760 number, and they will be able to talk you through your particular circumstance.
Does the clean-up extend to removal of concrete?
Is that right? I missed that. It was a bit scratchy up here, Michael. Does the clean-up extend to...
Does it extend to concrete? Removal of concrete.
So if your property is destroyed and you are deemed eligible for the clean-up program, they will clean the site. If there's concrete there, again, depends on particular circumstances, but in principle, yes, it would involve clearing of concrete. But you would need to speak to the concierge team, to the clean-up team, just to understand the nature of the concrete on your site and what's involved in that. But in principle, yes.
Yeah, the flooring of the shed, foundation concrete.
Yes, generally, yes.
Cool. If there's no more specific general questions, specific questions, please direct to.
We do have one
You
down
know,
there.
one more.
Sorry, Angela. Regarding you're underinsured, how does somebody use that? So if you can have a percentage cover loss claim, 400,000 and 600,000 should be billed, and obviously they put in a request for clean-up and research to grant the person. But how do they get this and insurance? They need to still in the state.
So when you contact the cleanup team, you will need your insurance policy, and the cleanup team will have experts who can help you walk through what rebuild looks like. So they will help you understand what that gap is. They won't necessarily be able to do that on the phone when you ring immediately, but they will take steps. If it does look like you have a level of underinsurance, they'll arrange for that to be properly assessed.
So they'll be assessing, you don't need to do that, you don't need to have anyone in the to do that.
In the initial stages, no.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Angela. Can I invite Ty Moore from the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing to the podium?
So my name is Ty Moore. I'm a private psychologist, but connected to the department, the Emergency Management Psychosocial Recovery Panel. So I'm going to talk a little bit about psychosocial recovery and wellbeing. I feel very disarmed holding a microphone, so I'm Middle Eastern and I like talking with my hands, but this feels very disarming. So firstly, thank you for allowing me to walk alongside you for this brief period in terms of your recovery as a community and as business owners. I also want to acknowledge the role of business owners, which is an important leadership role in the context of disaster recovery. Businesses, organisations are complex ecosystems at the best of times, let alone post an emergency event. When thinking about psychosocial recovery, I'd like you to think about three specific levels: the individual level, the relational level, and the community, and in your case, the organisational level. When thinking about the individual level, our physiology is very important. So after an emergency, it's not uncommon for our physiology to go into a state of hypervigilance. Many people will find themselves in a state of hypervigilance, but also the opposite can be true. Sometimes after an emergency, we can go into an experience of numbing. And sometimes it's difficult to predict whether one will go into a hypervigilant response or a type of numbing response. Another important dimension at the individual level refers to our way of thinking, which I'm talking about the sort of nature of our thoughts. Sometimes post an emergency, people can find themselves trapped into rigid or very fixed thinking. For other people, they might find themselves having a sort of flight of thinking or find it very difficult to make decisions. The other dimension is the emotional dimension. It's not uncommon for people to experience a range of emotions from irritability to numbness. And also the behavioural dimension. So after an emergency, it's not uncommon for people's sleeping patterns to be impacted, diet to be impacted, and some of the other habits and routines of our daily lives. Now, you might ask yourself, why do we undergo these changes? Now, although it doesn't always feel this way, our body is our friend. And our body is primed to help us survive difficult circumstances. So the changes we might experience at a physiological level at a cognitive level, at an emotional level, and as a behavioural level, is our body's way of helping us adapt and survive the challenging circumstances. Yeah, so all of those responses are okay if it helps you adapt and survive to the challenge that you're facing. In the context of psychosocial recovery, what we look out for is when, as people, we get stuck in certain patterns. Yeah? So as we find ourselves moving through recovery, if we find that we're stuck in a certain physiological response, or a certain cognitive response, or a certain behavioural response, and it's no longer serving us in terms of what we hope to achieve with ourselves, our family, our community, and our businesses, then that's an important indicator that we might need to reach out for additional assistance. In terms of the relational level, I'm really talking about how we show up in relationships. And there's a really useful spectrum to think about recovery in the context of relationships. And it's referred to as the under-involvement, over-involvement continuum. Now, when we experience an emergency event, it's not uncommon for some people to become under-involved in certain relationships. It's also not uncommon for people to become over-involved in certain relationship contexts. Again, it's very difficult to predict which way one might go. And sometimes it's not the same in all contexts. Someone might become over-involved and quite active in community relationships, but might notice that they are becoming under-involved in intimate or family relationships. And again, this is okay in the context of the initial stages of recovery. Your mind and your body will work together to help you meet the challenges that are in front of you. So you might find yourself becoming active and over-involved in some contexts and under-involved in other contexts. What we want to look out for again is if we get stuck in certain patterns and dynamics, and getting stuck in those patterns and dynamics no longer serves us, no longer aligns with the people we want to be, and how we want to show up in the important relationships in our lives. And again, if you're finding yourself stuck in a certain relational pattern, that might be an indicator that it might be worth reaching out for help or assistance. In terms of the community level, obviously an emergency event can impact things like routine, meaning, and shared ritual. It can impact levels of community cohesion and integration. Often people talk about emergency events as really amplifying fault lines that might exist within a community. That's true, that does happen, but from a strength-based perspective, from a positive psychology perspective, we also see emergency events really enhance the community, and there's plenty of that I've seen in this community. I now want to talk about the element of psychosocial recovery that is related to being a business owner and a leader. I think the most important thing is to recognise that looking after yourself as a business owner and community leader is not indulgent. It's actually good business strategy. And I'll explain why, and I'll use a friend of mine as an example. So I have a friend, he's afraid of flying. And when he's in an aeroplane, he doesn't so much tune into all the sounds and creaks that might be occurring while he's flying. What he does is that he looks at the face of the cabin staff. Now, if the cabin staff are fine, if they look regulated, if they look like they're at ease, then he takes his cue from them. He doesn't go into panic. But if the cabin staff start looking dysregulated and concerned, then he starts to panic. That's the nature of human beings. So as a business leader, as a community leader, your own well-being will set the tone for the people that you lead. So looking after yourself is not indulgent, it's very important business strategy. Yeah? Because the people that you lead in your organisations, in your companies, will look at you, and often they will regulate themselves based on your own emotional state. A couple of important things to keep in mind. Very important that as business leaders and community leaders, we focus on our regulation and we try to avoid making big decisions when we're dysregulated. So I'm going to apologise, sometimes psychologists use jargon, I'm going to use a little bit of jargon now. But in terms of our brain has two important elements. We have our limbic system, which is responsible for our fight or flight response, and we have our cortex, which is the thinking part of our brain. This is where our executive functioning, our complex decision making, all that part sits. Now, when we are feeling overwhelmed, our brain activity moves from the thinking part to the limbic structures. Now, those limbic structures are very good at responding to immediate concerns. They're not very good in terms of strategic thinking. They're not very good around complex decision making. So when we are feeling unsettled, our neurological activity goes down to our limbic structures and we lose all of the advanced resources of our more complex parts of the brain. So as a business leader, as a community leader, it's really important we recognise what might be going on for us, and if we feel that we're unsettled, if we feel that we're overwhelmed, that's probably not the best context in which we make decisions. Yeah, so our own regulation, our own well-being should be part of our business strategy, because if we can promote more cortex thinking, more calm, reasoned thinking, then we're going to be making better decisions. The other element is the importance of rebuilding routine before rebuilding strategy and ambition. So as human beings, we very much enjoy predictability in the context of our life. So if you think about your business, if you think about the organisation, building as much predictability and stability in those routines is essential for the recovery of our businesses and our organisations and the people connected to them. The importance of micro breaks, looking after your sleep, all of those things are critical as well. In terms of warning signs, what to look out for. Again, as I spoke earlier, as human beings, we are primed to adapt. So your mind and your body will make adaptations in order to support your survival in the context of an emergency. That is completely fine. That's your mind and your body doing its thing to optimize your success in the environment you find yourself in. The only thing to look out for is when we get stuck in certain patterns. And those patterns no longer serve us. Those patterns begin to distract away from our individual ambitions and the sort of people we want to be in the world, our relational health and how we want to show up in relationships, and our level of community integration and what type of community connection we'd like to have. So I guess essentially what I'm saying is be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, recognise that people are going to try to survive and rebuild post this emergency in ways that they feel like they can, and to give each other obviously and yourself a wide berth, but also be conscious we don't want to get stuck in certain ways of reacting, particularly when those ways of reacting no longer serve us, no longer serve our families, no longer serve our communities, no longer serve our businesses. That was psychosocial recovery and well-being in a nutshell. I'm happy to take some questions if people have any. I feel like I'm getting off very easily.
It was a great presentation.
Paul, is there any plan to run any programs specifically from the FFH this area, given what it's been through?
There certainly is an opportunity. So I'll explain a little bit about the panel. So the psychosocial recovery panel is a group of about 7 or 8 psychologists and mental health specialists who have worked in the context of disaster recovery for many years. And so we are available to be engaged or deployed. And so there is a contact number and email, which if you don't have, I can make available to you. You have, yeah. And so simply reach out, and all of our responses are very different, bespoke sort of responses. So have a conversation with the department around what your needs are, and we can respond. I mean, we do all sorts of things. We do training around psychosocial recovery. We do a lot of mental health first aid stuff. We can do some capacity building. So if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about how to support employees post an emergency, we can do that as well. We can work with communities. We can work with families. We can work with parents around how to best look after children in their care. So it's very flexible in terms of what we can do. It's really about what the need is. That's it. Lovely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John. Can I invite to the podium Kate from Park Justice?
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everybody. Firstly, again, I'm really sorry that we need to be here today. I am really grateful for the invitation to come and speak to you all, grateful to the council, to have Progress Association with Power work we've been doing over the last month or so. And it's been a tremendous honor to be here. Working in the community is, I guess, the reason that we get out of bed in the morning. So it's really great to be here. Arc Justice is a local human rights organisation based right here in central Victoria. We have in North Victoria as well. So we're working across the Harcourt fires, but also across the Longwood fires. So I guess we're having lots of these conversations every day. And if there's nothing else that I leave you with, please know there's no stupid question. You just had 3 fantastic people speaking to you about things, so probably the last thing you're going to hear from is a lawyer, so I can assure you that I am not a lawyer. What we do as a community legal centre is really to be there to help people in the community connect with how to solve their legal problem. What if it is a legal problem? You've talked about government admin processes. When that gets stuck, that's a legal problem. Insurance claims, this is a contract issue, that's a legal problem. Even family relationships, they can be legal problems as well. So there's often a legal solution to your everyday problems. Community legal centres don't work with small business, so why on earth would I be here? Well, because we're here to help connect you to people who do. That's part of our problem solving based on community, and not just providing that one-on-one service to people individually, but also trying to make sure that people have avenues to answer their legal problems, whatever those legal problems turn into. We work really closely with our community service organisations as well, so organisations like your Rural Financial Counselling, your Anglicare Financial Counselling, and those Anglicare support teams. Like I said, there's never a stupid question, that's all I leave with. We will help find someone who is going to be the right person to give you some answers and help you way through. The other thing I wanted to say is, please don't tell people at work, but paperwork and the kinds of legal duties are really, really boring, but there is a strange breed of people who really like reading that stuff. It's really overwhelming to have to listen to product disclosure statements or the various other bits and pieces and all of those terms and conditions. Please don't feel embarrassed reaching out. They're really boring people who love reading that stuff. Make sure you just jump in and ask for that help, because I think it was Daniel saying that feeling of getting stuck and being overwhelmed. We know that we've done this before, we've helped people through emergency events like this before. That getting stuck in an overwhelming amount of admin and paperwork is really, really hard, and that's one of the things that we can help you with. So, the other reason that I'm here is part of that connecting you to who can help. Justice Connect is an organisation that does provide free legal help to small businesses. So just for a moment, imagine that I look like someone who works for them, who actually looks just like me. Justice Connect is a social justice not-for-profit organisation. It provides free legal help and works to progress social justice while making it easier for people and organisations to navigate the legal system. Justice Connect provides specialist legal help and support to a range of communities, including those impacted by disasters. They can assist individuals and community organisations, as well as small business owners, farmers, and other primary producers. Justice Connect is a partner of Disaster Legal Help Victoria. Disaster Legal Help Victoria, Brian is here from Disaster Legal Help Victoria today, is another connecting piece in how the legal system sector helps to make sure everybody in Victoria can access the legal help they need. An overview of Justice Connect's disaster legal support for small businesses. So important to note that they do support small businesses, farms and other produce producers, especially when they've been impacted by bushfires, floods and other disasters. Part of the way we do this is by connecting people who need legal help with pro bono lawyers. So some lawyers who are happy to do that work for free. Justice Connect does that connecting piece. They can help small businesses with a wide range of issues, including but not limited to business insurance coverage and claims, fencing, issues around property access, repairs or loss, contract disputes, for example, supply contracts, leases, credit and debt, and planning issues. So who is eligible? Small businesses, farms and primary producers who have been impacted by disasters, generally with 20 employees or less, and who would struggle to pay for legal help or otherwise access the support they would need. There is no revenue threshold limit for businesses to apply, and if you're thinking about applying for help, encourage you to do so. There's no, they also have more flexible guidelines when it comes to disasters. So the referral process. This is what will happen if you come and talk to us. We're welcome connecting to them today. What will happen then? They will connect to you. They'll contact you within 2 business days, and they'll fast track urgent matters as much as they possibly can if that's needed. Their team will speak to you over the phone or email if that's what you prefer, about your legal issue and the help you need, and confirm eligibility before making a referral to a pro bono barrister or lawyer in their network. They will aim to connect you with pro bono support within 1 to 2 weeks and keep in touch with you about progress. Justice Connect's network of firms is being updated on emerging legal needs for small businesses and communities like Harcourt, and they're here to assist you across a wide range of legal areas. Small businesses can also apply for help directly by an online application form specifically for individuals and small businesses impacted by disasters. You can find the URL on the flyer that we've got at our table over there with the Justice and Robinson Heights side. Other support today. You're welcome to come and chat with us over at the Legal and Financial Recovery Desk today if you have any questions about the legal support available. So I'm really pleased to be joined today by Bron and Trent from Robinson Heights. They know this community well, they live here. They understand how devastating recent fires have been for local residents and businesses, as well as the broader commercial community of Central Victoria. They're really happy to chat with you today and share general information and guidance about some of the legal issues mentioned. This is one of those tricky things with lawyers. It's possible they won't be able to give you advice on the spot. That's just the way that legal assistance works. But they come and talk to them, and will come and talk to us and we'll help you connect to Justice Connect. Again, just to remind you just why seek help, because sometimes getting help can lead to better outcomes. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to help share the load and help ease that administration burden, help with the understanding of your problem and your decisions that you've got, that you can choose what's next and what's best for you and your business. And it's not just a one-time offer. We know that, in particular, legal issues crop out throughout the journey. Sometimes that takes years, And we're here all the way along. We're not just here just for this initial phase at all. I'm open for questions if you're up for a moment, if anyone has any.
No general questions, save specifics for at the table. Fantastic.
Thanks everybody.
We're running a little bit over time, but that's all good. Can I invite Maree from the Mount Alexander Shire Council to the podium?
Hi, I'm Lorraine Stupak. I'm the coordinator of statutory planning in Mount Alexander Shire. A lot of people at the moment are in recovery mode and have a lot of planning questions. We're here today to answer some of those for you. What I want to focus on is we're getting a lot of questions about tree removal, and there isn't a quick answer to that, but in most instances you won't need a planning permit for a tree removal. And other questions we're getting asked about is, do I need a planning permit about establishing my business or re-establishing it? Or I've got a home occupation, can I continue that? In most cases, the answer is yes. Now, we take our cues from the planning scheme, of course, and the two that we that apply in the emergency situation clause 5207 and 5210. They both have different criteria. One is an emergency response that gives you temporary permissions for up to 3 years, and after that it has to be removed for the sake of a dwelling, that you can establish a dwelling for up to 3 years, but after that you need to make it permanent, so you need permissions for that after 3 years. But the thing about business is we take our cues from the purpose of the zone, the purpose of these clauses. And the purpose of these are to facilitate businesses getting re-established or to continue to operate. And that happens in both of these clauses. So they're broad ranging, and where there is a discretion, we go back to the purpose of the zone, which is to enable businesses and services to continue operating or to facilitate the re-establishment of businesses and services in an emergency. So where there is a question that you need, do I need a permit or don't I need a permit? We take our cues from those purposes. Now, a lot of these grey areas that people have are going to relate back to that. Often you'll need something in writing from council, and we can help you with that. We can say, yes, you need a permit, or no, you don't need a permit, but we need a bit of information to help you through that process. With that, we have a couple of fact sheets. We've got some fact sheets over here, and we've got the clauses. Most people's questions are going to be individual and situational. We're here to help you through that process, and we have we've got a dedicated planner that's focused on Harcourt alone to help individuals through that process, and we strongly encourage you to come and help, talk to us, and we will do what we can to assist you with what you need to get through the next steps and to give you surety and continuity of your business. Now, I might leave that brief introduction on what the rules are and take some general questions. I'll open it up for some general questions. More specific questions might be best individually later on. So I'll open it up to the floor.
Wow, we have some very succinct speakers today. I like it.
All right.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. That basically concludes the speakers for the morning. Can I ask Jacqueline Brody Hands, Maree Edwards, Toby Hayden and Randy Simon to make their way down to the the front because apparently you have your business Q&A panel discussion starting up right away. But in the meantime, while we wait for them to make their way down to the floor, I've been asked to remind you that we have desks with insurance agents and Arc Justice. We also have the business bus out in the car park. So over the lunch period, when everyone's having a good nosh and so forth, please make yourself available to those desks if you have any specific questions, queries, and so forth, because it is much better to actually talk one-on-one with people. And in the meantime, I will hand over to Jacqueline, who just walked out the door. There we go. There are chairs for any of them. I hope you want nice high chairs. There we go. You make it look definitely like the panel. Fantastic. Okay. So, thank you to all the previous speakers, and I'll hand you over to Jacqueline.
Thank you. I just thought, we actually gave me a second mic for roving purposes, but I thought it was good that everyone could see the speakers. Okay, I don't think I need to introduce our lovely panel, but I will very quickly. Our Mayor Toby, our member Maree, and Remy, who is wearing multiple hats here today as a Harcourt resident, a business operator from the Cool Store Cafe, and a key figure with the Harcourt Progress Association, assisting with the relief process. My name is Jacqueline. I've also got a very large pile of hats here. My business was impacted at the Cool Store where Shed Shack Brewing stored 90% of our product, so we've lost a significant amount of our stock. I'm also, and I'm probably here in two capacities, that role, and also as chair of Business Mount Alexander. And Business Mount Alexander is the Shire's business association. We're separate from but supported by council, and we work very closely with them, with our colleagues at Malden Inc. and with other state government bodies and agencies working to support local business. I've also had long-standing history and connection with Harcourt and have previously been part of the Harcourt Progress Association. So I understand, I know a lot of people in the room, I know a lot of the producers who are at the Cool Store are in fact my suppliers. We've been serving wines. I was devastated by the loss of Mount Alexander Winery, who we have been pouring at the tap room since we opened our doors 10 years ago. So it's been a very close and direct association with a lot of the producers. But enough about me, because it's not about me. It's really about you, and it's also about what's out there, what's in the future, and what we can do working together to rebuild our business and our individual business and the business community more broadly. So I know there's a lot of funding that's been committed. We're still waiting for it to see it be delivered. I have been told, Maree, that there's some concerns that the bushfire season's not over yet, and so it may be that we have to wait a little bit longer with our fingers crossed. But Toby, I know that there's some money coming for more work that council can do in this space.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jacqueline. Hi everyone, and thanks for the opportunity. So some of you will know that we have a number of positions, up to 8 positions, which 4 of which we've got to go ahead to go and recruit for as a community development roles, of various different descriptions, which will help in the recovery of business as well as community throughout Harcourt. There's another 4 that we're still waiting on the final kind of T's to be crossed and I's to be dotted, but we're very confident that those other 4 will also be funded and the other, and perhaps there might be some more further down the pipeline. I wish I could announce today the date that those positions will be filled, but my understanding this morning is that it's really up to us with recruitment now, and those first 4 positions of community development and business support are fairly imminent. So that's some positive news right now for Harcourt. Of course, there are other supports in place, which are economic development team, emergency recovery team, can fill you in on this afternoon, the workshops as well. But I guess the main message from us is to get in touch with our economic development team, several of whom are here today.
That's terrific. I want to also acknowledge that I'm really directly connected to the producers and to people working in the hospitality and tourism space, but I know that there is so many more businesses beyond that. And I want to acknowledge that sometimes we do talk about the sexy stuff, but I'm sure, Ben, you find your cars just as sexy as we do the wine and the beer, and there's probably other service-based businesses here or possibly not here, and those businesses are just as important. And I really want to continue to stress that when we talk about business, it is everything from your small micro based in the kitchen bench to the larger operations, the really established and the emerging. So there is no one size fits all. And please know that we're trying to be as inclusive as possible, even though some of the language might sound like you're not speaking to me. And I do want to just acknowledge the alcohol and beverage producers. And Maree, I want to thank the state government because we've just had our liquor licence charges refunded. So that is something state government has already done. And if you're a producer and you haven't received that notification, follow it up because you can get that charge refunded to you. And so we're really grateful. But can you just speak to some of the other initiatives that are happening?
Thanks, Jacqueline, and that's right. The liquor licensing fees for 2026 are being waived for anyone that has already paid them. They will get a refund, or they will be waived into the future. So if you haven't accessed that refund, or you haven't put your feelers out to get that licence renewal fee waived, please do so. Jacqueline and Angela from ERV went into a lot of detail about what is available both from the federal government and the state government and the local government in relation to support for our small businesses across not only Mount Alexander Shire but Harcourt in particular. And can I just acknowledge everyone in the room today? I think I have probably met most of you. If I haven't, thank you for coming along this morning because this is important. This is important for us as your representatives to hear from you about what your needs are so that we can follow up. If there is a gap, I want to know about it because I can follow up on those gaps, and it's really important to know every business is a little bit different and there's no blanket solution that will fit every single small business. As Jacqueline said, from our very small micro businesses right through to some of the larger ones, for example, the cook store. So we know that there is a possibility that some people might be falling through those gaps. We want you to reach out. We want to hear from you. We want to know how we can help and what more we can do. Jacqueline also mentioned about the fire season. It is only February, and we do have many weeks ahead of us of probably challenging weather. The other thing to remember is that the recent bushfires impacted a substantial part of Victoria, not just Harcourt. And there are many, many small businesses across the state who are facing exactly what you are facing, and the challenges of recovery, rebuilding, and dealing with the loss. There's a lot of assessments still being done in relation to that small business and what those small businesses and what that looks like. As I said, the variety and the geographical spread of the disaster is very challenging. Here, locally, we know that includes our tourism operators. We know that it includes our producers. We're all familiar with what happens here in Harcourt and what the loss at the cook store has meant for many of our local producers. We absolutely understand that. We have already announced $500,000 in partnership with the federal government to support the rebuild of the food store. And of course, we also understand that many of those local producers were not insured for their products. So we are looking at the packages that might be available to be delivered into the future, but we're still in that phase of not knowing what the rest of the summer will bring, and also doing that bigger and broader assessment of what the packages might look like for each area, if you like, of small business, from the tourism operators through to the agricultural sector, and there's lots of support in the agricultural space right now. The other thing that is really important for people to know, and I'm not sure that it's actually filtered through, but there's a lot of philanthropic support. Our banks are offering support for people as well. There's low interest loans available, there's concessional loans available. There's a whole lot of support outside of state and federal and local government that can be accessed as well. So I encourage you to speak to the services here today who can put you in touch with those supports as well. But again, I reiterate that if there are gaps, I need to know where those gaps are so that I can feed that back into those that make decisions about support, and to make sure that everyone feels like they are supported in some way, whether it be financially, whether it be emotionally, whether it be mentally. We can make sure that you get the support that you need.
Thanks, Maree. And look, it is a really good segue to talk about some of the other financial supports. We know that the community rallied to support householders, and the HPA, what figure are you up to at the moment?
With funds?
Fundraising?
It's around 350,000.
So 350,000, it's just extraordinary. And of course, a lot of individual GoFundMes were put in place as well. So Businessman Alexander thought we would go a different route, and we have been partnering with the Foundation for Regional Rural Renewal. They're based in Bendigo, but are nationally focused. And they do a lot of amazing work in the bush, but they have a really big focus on emergency response. So they have various funding programs available. But what we've done is establish a business account, a fundraising account, specifically to assist with economic recovery. We currently have about $100,000 pledged in there at the moment, and we're on track for $200,000. So that money will be directed to specific, we don't know what they are yet, we will be coming out to community and asking businesses and industry and producers what's the best effective use of this bucket of money to help support economic recovery. The sorts of things that I would envisage are promotion and marketing campaigns, so really raising the profile of the extraordinary rich hub that Harcourt is for producers, and again recognising that a lot of the producers that are based at the cool store are not in fact from Harcourt, but it speaks to the volume of how important and how integral this place is within central Victoria. We'd also like to see some tourism campaigns and some potentially more events, so some community resilience, but targeting and ensuring it has a direct positive impact on our business community. So please do put your thinking caps on, because we're going to have to spend that money somehow, and we want to do it in a way that has really sustainable economic recovery. It might also be worth hosting some grant information sessions specifically for the business community. They do exist. They are a little trickier, but it certainly would be a great opportunity to share that information and upskill business operators how to tap into what is literally millions and millions and millions of dollars in grant funding available through government and philanthropic organisations. So that's another job I just created for myself. Remy, how are you finding everything? I mean, like me, it's kicking the guts, but you physically, I know what's not my business. I lost my beer, but not my business. How are you travelling?
Thanks, Jacqueline. I think I have to thank Timor for what he contributed this morning, because he gave me an excuse to be a little bit vulnerable. And the truth is that I'm actually not feeling great. I'm actually feeling pretty terrible. when, after the fires, myself and Bonnie, we jumped into being part of the recovery, and that was a really nice distraction for us, but it did keep us going for a while, but now we've hit a point where we need to start looking after ourselves. And we've hit a wall, quite a strong reinforced wall, and things are quite tricky. Yes. I think today's really great because the Harcourt community has had an opportunity to come out and connect and be available and have access to services, but I feel like the business community is probably being left out a little bit, and now's our opportunity to come together and look after ourselves, and also think about what does the future hold for us, and how do we want to grow as a town, and how to impact in the long-term recovery of the town. And personally, I feel like I have some responsibility in the long-term recovery of the town. Now, our venue was customer-facing, we were hospitality, we were a place for people to connect, and we're looking at how can we rebuild with that in mind, how can we create a space where people can come together and get a cup of coffee, but also engage with each other and speak and share those stories and give hugs, and so it's part of our process. But I think we might first look after ourselves before we start jumping into what our rebuild looks like.
Yeah, and I do think it's really important that we recognise that this is a long-term recovery, and it's going to keep hurting. It's going to hurt when you go to pay the bills. It's going to hurt when you. My beer is now stored in Melbourne. That's an hour and a half away. It's changed my business model completely, and I'm sure that a lot of other people are having a similar experience. We're not, here in Harcourt the way we were, but we can be, and there is a future, and we need to stay focused on that future and recognise that the supports that may not be there yet, we have to keep pushing to make sure we get those supports. So we've got to keep having this conversation, and we've got to keep putting this pressure on government and agencies. They can't forget Harcourt. It's really, really important. But we need to also recognise that it is a protracted process.
Yeah, thanks, Jacqueline. And I think that point's really key, that for the first 5 or 6 weeks, I know a lot of the community around Harcourt and the fire-affected areas have been running on adrenaline, as Remy kind of alluded to. And that's, I think, anecdotally from my conversations with some of you and others in the broader Harcourt Raven football community from the business point of view, it's the same for businesses. Businesses have been talking with their insurers, reaching out to Anglicare and support agencies, reaching out to us, to state government, have been, where possible, commencing their cleanups, organising for those cleanups to begin for a lot of small businesses, and especially micro businesses and sole traders. We're aware that a lot of you rely on your primary place of residence as a primary place of business operations too, and so the cleanup of those sites is really critical for kickstarting the immediate business response. I'm really grateful to the organisers today, Remy, Michael, everyone at HPO, who put this on. It's a chance for us to hear from you as to where you're at. Also picking up on some comments earlier, I think from perhaps Lorraine, that all of those 150 or however many businesses, small businesses, medium businesses, micro businesses, sole traders, all have individual recoveries and very bespoke needs, which of course makes the recovery more complex than where we're simply looking at the cool store or simply looking at one large secondary industry. I guess another key point related to that is around planning. For those small businesses, or indeed for all businesses who are relying on their pre-fire location as their ongoing location of business activities, there a lot of planning issues are going to come to the fore now, and so please do avail yourselves of our planners here today and speak to them, because again, it's difficult for our planners to give broad, relevant information to all of you, it's really going to rely on those one-on-one conversations. What are your needs? Have you got dangerous trees? How's your site clean up? Do you have dangerous materials? Asbestos is often the elephant in the room now in Harcourt. So yeah, I think it's lovely to come here today. The workshop this afternoon, I guess, is where we can really get down to brass tacks in terms of how can we, as the Shire, and for that matter, the state government agencies and those non-government agencies who are here today, help you and assist you in your clean-up. And also, I just want to make the point that I perhaps have made before, as Mayor, it's been so heartening the way that, obviously the community response, I keep mentioning that, but the way that the state and federal and other local governments have worked together on this has been really heartening, and I add to that Harcourt Progress and other community groups. We're in a good place here in Harcourt. I know that we responded fairly quickly with recovery centres, relief centres and so on. The point that was made before by Maree about the fact that there are many fire grounds across Victoria. You know that the Longwood fire burns a lot more acreage than around Harcourt. I know it's a very different kind of fire, the impacts are very different. But looking at how other communities are responding, and all communities respond differently, from where I sit in our Shire, the response in Harcourt has been overall, it's been pretty impressive in many, many ways. And I've had communications with mayors from other parts of the state who are looking to us for advice on how best to respond to community needs. And that's something we can thank you for your input that you've had to us and to state government.
I think what a massive thanks that we've forgotten is to actually acknowledge the extraordinary contribution of the business community. We really have seen businesses supporting businesses. It's been really notable in the hospitality industry where from within 24 hours, Boomtown had worked with countless businesses around town to come together. 1,000 people attended the very first fundraiser and raised significant money. And we've seen that replicated all throughout the Shire, and indeed now the Fine Folk of Bendigo are also stepping up, and there are a lot of Harcourt fundraisers. And this is the business community who are already doing it tough. And we know that people here in the room have been gifting and giving and supporting each other, and it's really heartening. And everyone does need to take a moment to acknowledge how important that is, what you're doing to support each other. You've been so humble in allowing the householders and the residents to take centre stage, but it really is time that we look after our business community now. Harcourt might be a beautiful place, but without the businesses, without the producers, without an economy, it's just a sleeper suburb of Castlemaine. And we know that Harcourt will never, ever be a sleeper suburb, but that's because we've got people making, doing, serving extraordinary things in this Shire, in this town, and we need to support that. Enough from the talking heads. I'm sure there's got to be some questions. You've got really great people here. Go on.
Hi, my name is Charmaine. I'm from Stilling, so I'm one of the producers impacted by Harcourt, by the cold storm. My question is probably more to Maree. I really appreciate the fire situation is still an ongoing event, so it's reasonable that it's going to take time. But how will businesses like us get information in a meaningful way in terms of as and when packages become available? Because I guess my feedback is that without events like this, it's actually been really challenging. We've had to do so much calling around, so many emails, and they've basically just been dead ends, and our bills don't stop coming. And we're about to walk into vintage, and we're walking in feeling very insecure. So I guess it would be good to know, rather than a lot of virtue signalling, which is great, but what is the actual process that's going to happen?
Thank you for that question. Yes, there is a lot of information out there. Accessing that information can appear to be quite confronting and quite confusing. And I acknowledge that for those who've been through this trauma, particularly our businesses, that we don't want to make it harder for you to access what supports are available. The first point of call, though, also, can I say, is to make sure that you are registered with Business Victoria. That is the first thing. The first step is to register your business so that we know that you are a business operating in Victoria. Rural Financial Counselling Services, Mount Alexander Shire is about to appoint, am I allowed to say this? Yeah. About to appoint a disaster recovery officer. A disaster recovery officer that is funded by the state. So that person and the 4 people that will sit underneath that person when they are appointed as well will be the go-to for anyone in the Shire, particularly in Harcourt, who needs access to information and support. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is to take the pressure off volunteers who've been doing the hard lifting here, but also because we want to make it a bit more streamlined for people, whether it be families and households or whether it be businesses, to access the supports that are available. So that person, the Mount Alexander Shire, will be on the ground, hopefully, by the end of this week, to be able to support anyone who has questions, wants to know how to go about accessing information. The fact that we've had all of these services here at the pavilion here for over, 3-4 weeks now, says to me that it is important that you reach out. If you haven't done so, please do so, either through my office or through the Shire. There are ways that you can actually get the information that you need. It's not, we can do that work for you. Anglicare can do that work for you. There are lots of organisations. Our Justice can do some of that work for you. So I think it's important to let us know what you need, because flying blind is not an option. And just on your point, Jacqueline, about the long haul, the economic impact of this fire on Harcourt and our Shire more broadly is going to be significant. It's not short term, it is long term. And I will give you my word that I will be here for that long haul. And if you need help, please reach out.
Thanks for that. Just a follow-on question. With the positions being appointed, I just wonder, will the Shire consider some of the businesses that are currently unable to operate? Perhaps some of those people would be able to apply for those positions.
Thanks. Yeah, the recruitment for those positions is an open recruitment. I understand anyone can apply. I'm hoping that we will have someone in that leadership role very shortly. As I say, there are 4 positions, maybe 5 that we currently are able to recruit for. There's another 3 or 4 that we're very confident will be very soon, like later this week, next week, we'll be able to recruit for. And there's another 4 that we're still negotiating with our state and federal colleagues to get funding for those. But I see no reason why not.
Questions?
Won't that just introduce another, are they going to be people to talk to, or will that just introduce another stage of network and emails that we're all going to have to sift through to get anything done?
Yeah, no, absolutely. They will be the people for you to speak to. That will take the pressure off our overstretched teams who have been here a lot in the recovery centre, and it's about streamlining the response. As Maree pointed out before, the state government still has a lot of work to do in terms of assessing the damage and the needs throughout the whole of Victoria. We in the Shire, as many of you are waiting for those secondary assessments on your property. So in many ways, we've been limited in what we can actually do up to this point anyway, because we're waiting on those assessments. Site cleanups has been a big deal. I'm sure you've heard anecdotally and officially about the different ways that people, depending on their insurance cover, go about cleaning up their site. So the purpose of these community development and business support roles is to work with businesses, to work with the community, and to streamline that response so that you're not dealing with multiple agencies. We're good at that. We're good at picking up the phone and talking to Maree's office and all the various state government agencies. We don't expect individual business owners and residents in Harcourt to be doing that legwork. So that's the point of those roles. Yeah.
Thank you. How long is the recovery officer funded for? Is it just recovery, or is it recovery and rebuild?
They're 2 year, those roles that I mentioned are 2 year roles, so we see that as sort of between medium to long term. So a few weeks ago we were thinking that the recovery is kind of like 24 months. We're thinking in terms of getting Harcourt back to some sort of semblance of where it was on January 8. I'm now aware that it could be a bit longer than that when we're thinking about rebuilding homes. However, when we look at historical data of fire, responses to fires and disasters in Victoria, it's often businesses that are the quickest to respond. It's often businesses that need to be responding much faster. So I think 24 months is a pretty good time frame. There are options for us to seek to extend those roles if the need remains after 2 years, but the majority of those roles are 2 year roles. And by the way, I should add, they're not all full-time roles, right? They're not like, all of those roles aren't 5 days a week. There's a mix of different FTE depending on the community development roles they are.
Any other questions? I just want to pick up on the point you made, Toby, about getting back to a semblance of what we were before. Let's think to the future. This is, we've got these resources, these staff, potentially some funding, all sorts of energy and goodwill. We have to think about what we want, and I'm hoping that this afternoon there'll be a lot of those conversations. What do we want from the future? Because if we can start articulating that now, we can feed that into the funding plans. We can look at making an incredibly dynamic precinct around the cool store, recognising there are two businesses there, adjacent and both impacted. How can we reimagine what that looks like? And what other opportunities do we need here in Harcourt to support our economic recovery? So this is not back to what we were, this is about where we want to be. And I think building back better. Got to have a slogan. I think that concludes this session.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Yeah, I should be clear. I guess when I said what I meant really was more about the quantitative, like when does a business's income get back to where it was before the disaster? No matter where that income's coming from, and you're quite right, of course we build back better, we shoot for the stars, look for ways to improve. But on that as well, I just wanted to add, many of you would be aware of Plan Harcourt and would know that there are really significant plans in place in council for how to grow Harcourt and what ways to grow Harcourt sustainably but meaningfully into the future. Harcourt is very different to other communities in our shire. A lot of people who work in Greater Bendigo or who work in Massillon Ranges live here in Harcourt. We have quite a lot of people here who are commuting to work, as I say, in Bendigo, Kyneton, Wood, and so on. Levels of the population doing that we don't see in Castlemaine or Campbell's Creek or Newstead and other, for obvious geographic reasons. So when we think now, obviously all this is in flux now, in a sense. So this fire may present opportunities for us as a shire to lean on our friends in state and federal government to get behind funding some of those critical infrastructure works and community development works, which will enable some of those key precepts behind Plan Harcourt to develop and hopefully develop a bit faster. So going back to your point, Jacqueline, about building that better, absolutely. And so again, this afternoon is a great opportunity for you guys to talk to our planning team, to talk to our economic development team around, what's your vision? Where do you see Harcourt? I see this one here. When we imagine our business community in 5 years, what does it look and feel like? And we need that. We really want your feedback on that. talk to us about it. As you know, there's a lot of maps that have been published over the last few years around Plain Harcourt, different stages of residential development, different ideas for commercial development. Now's a great time to be feeding your thoughts into that process, as we're obviously going over all this with a fine-tooth comb again.
Train station.
Train station.
As they say, never waste a crisis and never waste a free lunch. So we're going to adjourn now for lunch. I want to thank everybody for being here today. I would like to thank our three panellists. If you could please show some appreciation.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline Brady-Hands, for facilitating the QA panel. We're about to step into lunch, provided by Oz from Near East Kitchen over in Ballarat. I've been up the back there and it's been quite mouth-watering. So we're going to break for lunch in a minute. Just a reminder that the next session will be starting at around about 1:30. Fairly big, important session for the rest of the afternoon. But if you can't make it for that session, please leave post-it notes on these three panels over here with any questions or queries that you have if you can't stay for the rest of the afternoon. With that in mind, help yourself to lunch, fill your bellies, have a drink, and come back with questions for the Shire.